Career Advancement, Part 6, Weight of Responsibility. The soft glow of the cafe lights once again set the stage for Emily and Daniel's latest conversation. This time, as they sipped their drinks, they were both deep in thought. The topic of leadership and influence had left them with much to reflect on, but tonight, they were ready to tackle something even more challenging: the weight of responsibility that comes with leadership.
You know, after our last conversation, I've been thinking a lot about how leadership is really a balancing act. We talked about empathy and influence, but what about the responsibility that comes with it? What do you do when things go wrong? And you're the one people are looking to for answers.
That's definitely a big part of it, Emily. It's easy to lead when everything is going well, but the true test of leadership comes when things fall apart. I've been in situations where I had to make a decision, and it wasn't the right one. The weight of that stays with you.
Exactly. I think that's something people don't always talk about, how heavy that responsibility can feel. I remember when my team missed a major deadline. I was the one who had to answer to upper management, even though it wasn't all my fault. But in the end, it didn't matter. As the leader, I had to own it. Question: Daniel, when you faced failure or setbacks in leadership, how do you handle taking responsibility? Would you say it's best to A. Acknowledge the mistake openly with the team, B. Find a solution first before addressing it, C. Shift the focus to future improvements rather than the mistake itself?
I'd say A. Acknowledge the mistake openly with the team. For me, transparency is key. When something goes wrong, the team already knows it, and they're looking to you to see how you handle it. If you try to cover it up or avoid the topic, it breaks trust. I think it's important to admit when you've made a mistake and then move forward with finding a solution together.
I completely agree. I've found that when I'm open about my mistakes, my team respects me more. They know I'm human and that I'm willing to own up to things. It sets the tone for accountability across the board.
But it's not always easy, right? Especially when the stakes are high. Sometimes, taking responsibility feels like you're putting a target on your back. Have you ever had to face consequences that felt unfair because of a mistake you made?
Oh, definitely. Last year, I led a project that ended up going over budget. Even though there were factors outside of my control, I was the one who had to take the heat for it. It was hard because I felt like I was being blamed for things that weren't entirely my fault. But at the end of the day, I had to accept that as the leader, the responsibility fell on me.
That's the hardest part, isn't it? Leadership means you're the one in the spotlight, even when the issue is out of your hands. It can feel really isolating at times.
Question: Daniel, when things feel overwhelming, how do you keep yourself motivated to continue leading? What helps you push through? Would you say A. Focusing on the long-term goals. B. Leaning on your team for support. C. Taking a step back to recharge and reset.
I'd go with B. Leaning on your team for support. It's funny we think of leaders as the ones who are supposed to be strong for everyone else. But sometimes the best thing you can do is lean on your team. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, I've found that talking to the people I'm leading and asking for their input or support can make a huge difference. It creates a sense of shared responsibility.
That's such a good point. I think sometimes we forget that leadership doesn't mean doing everything alone. When we trust our teams and allow them to support us, it strengthens the whole group.
Their conversation lingered on the concept of shared responsibility, both of them realizing that leadership wasn't just about guiding others, but also about allowing others to guide them when needed.
One thing I've noticed, especially as I've gotten more experience, is that leadership can sometimes feel like walking a tightrope. You're constantly balancing the needs of your team, the expectations from above, and your own goals. It can be exhausting.
Absolutely. It's like there's always pressure from every direction. And sometimes, the hardest part is that you can't please everyone. Question. Daniel, in those situations where you know someone's going to be unhappy with your decision, how do you approach it? Do you A. Try to find a compromise that satisfies most people? B. Stick to your decision and accept that not everyone will agree? C. Take time to explain your reasoning and hope for understanding?
I'd say C. Take time to explain your reasoning. Even if people don't agree with your decision, I think they're more likely to respect it if they understand why you made it. When I've had to make tough calls, I've found that taking the time to sit down with people and walk them through my thought process helps them see where I'm coming from, even if they don't like the outcome.
That's a great approach. I think sometimes leaders forget how powerful communication can be. Just explaining the why behind your decision can make all the difference in how it's received.
The cafe grew quieter as the night stretched on, but Emily and Daniel remained engrossed in their discussion, reflecting on the complexities of leadership. They both recognized that, while influence and authority could be learned, handling the weight of responsibility was a continuous journey, one that demanded resilience, self-awareness, and the willingness to grow from every experience.
I think what we've talked about tonight has really opened my eyes to the full scope of leadership. It's not just about guiding others. It's about navigating the pressure, the mistakes, and the difficult decisions, all while staying true to your values.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes leadership so rewarding, even when it's hard. It's not about being perfect, it's about learning how to rise to the challenge over and over again.
Well, I know I've got a lot to think about after tonight's conversation. Leadership is definitely more than I ever realized, but I feel more prepared to take it on, knowing that it's okay to not have all the answers.
Same here. It's all part of the growth process. And I think as long as we're open to learning from our mistakes and leaning on others, we'll continue to get better at it.
As the last few patrons trickled out of the cafe, Emily and Daniel exchanged a final knowing glance, both feeling the weight of leadership in a new light, aware that with every challenge came an opportunity for growth, both for themselves and those they led. 5 final words and phrases related to the theme of career advancement. Part 6. Weight of responsibility.
Accountability. The obligation to take responsibility for one's actions, decisions, and their outcomes, especially as a leader. Transparency. The practice of being open and honest with others, particularly when facing challenges or mistakes.
Resilience. The capacity to recover from difficulties and continue leading despite setbacks. Shared responsibility. The concept that leadership is not just about one person. It involves collaboration and support from the entire team.
Navigating pressure. The ability to manage the weight of expectations and demands while maintaining focus and making effective decisions.